Okay. Everything that we did before was not very accurate. It's time to fix it. Merge all layers with fillings into one. Take the blender brush and slowly adjust the boundaries of colors. Retouch, gloss over, remove sharp edges, where they are not needed. In general, we direct a certain gloss on the illustration. Since you merged the layers together with the shadows, you can also edit the shadows here a little. I have not touched the contour layer yet, I'll work on it a little later. Again, I remind you of shadows. Do not try to smooth the sharp edges of the shadows absolutely everywhere. Try to do it at a minimum only where it is needed. In some places, it may be more convenient for you to use a normal brush instead of the smudge brush tool. Do not hesitate to use it. Here over this element it will be necessary to work a little longer, but I'll leave it for later. If somewhere you need to add some details, also add them. If you forgot to add color here and there, also do it now. Yes, and that's the bulb. I think I will have a flask with some kind of glowing liquid, possibly radioactive. I will also work on it a little later. Now I have just a blank. Here I decided that the ear is not shining enough. And added red a little. Then I will strengthen this shade even more. But this will already be at the stage with the addition of light. But for now, I think that's all. We proceed to the next part. OK. And in this part, we will slightly correct the contour. And add the strongest shadows to the character. To do this, drag the layer with the outline. Make it a sublayer of a layer with a fill. The blending mode of the layer with the outline must be multiply. And then with a erase brush tool with soft edges, remove the contour where we do not need it. And paint with hard brush where we want to strengthen the shadows. In this case, the color is the same as the contour drawn. The color can be taken from the contour, putting it into the normal mode. Then again, change this mode to multiply. It will be the strongest and most contrasting shadows. Do not forget that the objects that are closest to us have more contrasting shadows than those that are in the background. Also, do not forget about the direction of the light source. I have it on the upper right. And remembering that, I'm just drawing all the shadows, which the character has. Since this is a separate layer, you can always correct it if you have made a mistake, and added a too stiff shadow or did not finish it. So do not worry if something did not work out the first time. Just try again. As you can see, I myself experiment a lot. I often add or remove shadows. Somewhere I make them softer. So I try to find the most interesting variants, to show some of the character's details in more contrast, or, on the contrary, hide them and make them less visible. Also experiment with the thickness of the contour. Perhaps, somewhere it will seem too thick to you, too stiff. All this can be corrected with the help of a eraser brush tool. Here you see, I switched to the top layer, the layer with the fill. And I decided to change the colors for the ear a little, to make it a little lighter. Now, again, I switched the layer with the contour to normal, to take from it the color that it painted. And then continued to work with the shadows. Try not to get hung up on one part of the picture. Try to switch, that is, edit the whole image. You do not need to draw one part of the image, while leaving the rest of the character almost untouched. This will prevent you from seeing the entire painting. The illustration will start to fall apart, and in general it will not lead to anything good. When you delete a path, it may turn out that underneath is not a very even fill. Do not be intimidated by this. This can easily be fixed. Just paint and fix them with a normal brush. And here I again took the blender, smudge brush tool, and smeared the not very even parts of the shadow. Well, here I just delete unnecessary contours with the help of a brush. Another convenient technique. You can create an HSL layer, remove the saturation of colors to a minimum. And by moving the HSL layer also into the underlayer of the fill layer, you will remove the color saturation of the fill. At that, the image becomes black and white, only the outline can be colored. When the fill melts decolorized, this will allow you not to be distracted by colors, and see only the volumes. Well, since the colors will not interfere with you, the volumes will be much easier to draw. I use this technique from time to time. It greatly simplifies the work. And this technique became possible, thanks to the use of separate layers for shadows and filling. Well, perhaps with the shadows, we also finished. And you can return the color to the character and move on to the next part. In this part, we, nevertheless, draw the eyes of the character. Without them, it looks somehow terrible. I just created another layer. Painted on it a circle of blue color. And then the duplicate was moved to the sublayer, thus, my first layer serves as a mask. And in the sublayer I draw the eye itself, not being afraid to go beyond the boundaries of this circle. Here I have already drawn a pupil. Now I create another layer. And set it into glow mode. On this layer, I will draw a glare and a falling light. First I also draw light with a brush with hard edges. And then smudge parts of the flare using the smudge tool and a blender brush. But do not forget that the surface of the eye strongly reflects light. And the glare on it will be sharp enough with hard edges. I will correct the form a little. Now merge all the layers into one. And move it to the right place. To change the perspective, you can use the perspective tool. Now copy this layer. And move it to the place of the second eye. When all manipulations with the transformation are completed, you can combine both eyes into one layer, and drag them under the layer with the main fill. It is best to drag it also under the layer with the shadows, so that the shadows are also on top of the eyes. While our eyes are on a separate layer, we can easily change their color. To do this, create an HSL layer. Place it under the layer with the eyes. And change the eye color to the desired one. OK. Now, if necessary, you can add more shadows over the eyes. We will do this already in a layer with shadows.